episode, which is episode 21, 21.1 to be precise, is called The Paradox of Prosperity. And why is it called that? Well, there was a column of the same name that came out today in the Berkshire Edge. But before I tell you what it is, I feel the need to play a little bit. I say, baby, you know that it happens whenever you're near. I try to ignore it. You see, there was another instrument coming out. My phone was pressing buttons on the keyboard. So listen to my voice, 'cause we didn't have a choice. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about what the real subject is here. The paradox of prosperity. Here's the deal. Everybody thinks that more is better. Well, it isn't. It turns out that psychologically, if you go to a store and they have 24 different kinds of bottles of jam on the shelves versus another store that has 6, turns out people are more likely to buy when there are only 6 choices than 24. It's really a problem. If you have too many choices, you get paralyzed. And so, for example, here, I have about 1,000 different sounds of instruments I could be making, and I've got hundreds of different drum tracks. I could write 10 songs and play them 100 different ways. And that's pretty cool, except for the fact that how do you know which one to do? You need to have some sort of focusing down. So 80 to 100 years ago, we had world wars, depressions. You could die. Like, life was dangerous. Not so much anymore. And because we have so many choices and so many options and so little constraints, turns out that prosperity is not necessarily making people feel good. In fact, a lot of people feel terrible. There are a lot of more depressed people now than there were during World War II. Seems crazy. A lot more psychologists, a lot more depression, a lot more pharmaceuticals, a lot more choices, a lot more options. 80 years ago, if you had a roof over your head and you had food, you had a job, well, you were doing great. You didn't have to decide what you should get a graduate degree in order to not be able to get a job after you got out and still had $250,000 worth of debt. So this is the crazy part. Prosperity is not necessarily good for everybody, and that may be a contributor to today's movement where a large part of the country is really upset and pissed off. It's not that they have it any worse than they had it 80 years ago. They actually have it better. They could have died then of disease, of poverty. Right now, even poor people have $100 sneakers and smartphones. That is not a worse condition. That's a better condition if prosperity is the key to happiness. It isn't. For me, the key to happiness is having a nice drum track and some good Fender Rhodes sounds. Musicians today have so many more choices. 80 years ago, basically, they had a piano. That was it. Period. Piano. Pianos are cool. I have a piano, even more than one. But think about how many other keyboard instruments there are today, and how much fun people have making up different songs with different sounds. Right now, this keyboard is sending out MIDI signals into this Macintosh. The laptop is creating all of the sounds. This little baby here, standard off-the-shelf MacBook Air, I have built into it a very large number of sounds. And they sound pretty convincing. That sounds quite a bit like the Fender Rhodes I used to carry around, but that weighed 75 pounds, and this weighs 2.7 pounds. Okay, cheating. The keyboard here, that weighs 32 pounds, but still, 35 pounds compared to 75 pounds, and 75 pounds for one instrument versus 35 pounds for a gazillion instruments. Okay, that's prosperity, so I'm not bummed out. But there still are a lot of people upset by having too many choices, and most people who do gigs, they only play 2 or 3 sounds, even though they may have 2 or 3 million, because, well, they don't have time to discover all those sounds. They're too busy sort of like playing, which is the real point. So the only way to be happy is not by having more. It's by knowing what you want and having it, and being grateful for having that. I'm totally grateful for my little Macintosh, which I played so many hours in the last 5 years that I've worn out the keys on it. And this 88-key keyboard, which I played so many gigs with that it's got dents in it and a broken slider. Hey, it still works. It's still way more portable than the piano in my living room, which I can't get into the trunk of my car. So, prosperity? Well, paradoxically, a lot more people in the United States are angry and feeling disenfranchised than they did 80 years ago during World War II. Kind of amazing, huh? And our current administration has basically been taking advantage of the fact that a lot of people don't feel so hot. And by saying, don't worry, we'll take care of you. Well, it's much easier for people to go, well, it's not my fault. I don't know what to do. There's too many choices. Episode 21.1.